viewers, welcome back to TV Education Timor. Here again with me, Dirce Lilifania in the Voice of America News. I know that all of us face a really hard situation with the pandemic of COVID-19, but I hope all of you are feeling good right now by attending this international news. I will accompany all of you in a few minutes with many kind of information which will provide you to the real news in which is taken factually and actually in international. We announce the VOA news through the TV Education Timor channel, which cooperate with the Voice of America. Well, let's begin the news for today. Britain has sent 2 warships to the English Channel as a dispute with France about the fishing rights threatens to escalate. Henry Rachel for VOA in London.
About 24 French trawlers sailed to Jersey to stage a protest Thursday. One vessel briefly entered the main harbour on the island.
We come today because we have always fished in the waters there. We have always fished here, and then overnight they take away all our fishing rights.
Shadowing the protests offshore, 2 warships have been dispatched by Britain to, in its words, monitor the situation. France has also deployed 2 maritime patrol vessels. Talks between the fishermen and Jersey authorities were ongoing Thursday. Jersey is British but lies just off the French mainland. Under Britain's exit deal from the European Union, special provisions were included for the island's fishing grounds.
French boats that were catching fish in Jersey waters for at least 10 days a year between 2017 and 2020 have the right to continue doing so on into the future. What it seems has happened is that the Jersey authorities have taken a very restrictive approach to proving that you were fishing and how much you were fishing in the last 3 years.
France has threatened to cut off Jersey's electricity supply.
We are ready to use these retaliatory measures. Europe, France, has the means. It's written into the agreement. So as far as Jersey is concerned, I would remind you, for example, of the transport of electricity by submarine cables.
The British government said it would seek a solution.
To work together to make sure that operationally, on the ground, we iron out any issues, any problems, so that this historic deal between the United Kingdom and the EU, one of the most important deals we have struck, we've put in place, works for people, for communities, for the fishing communities.
Fishing makes up a fraction of 1% of British and European economies, but fishing is a potent cultural and political force, says Kane.
Fishermen are, after all, in a modern economy, they're the only people who are still basically hunter-gatherers. They go out and find food and bring it back. And so there's that kind of primal dimension to fishing that maybe makes it a bit sensitive. In addition to that, it's deeply rooted in coastal communities. People seem to care very much about it to a degree that is wildly disproportionate to its economic importance. And then politically as well, it's quite frankly useful for both sides to be pushing this story because it has so much resonance.
The European Union has called for a de-escalation of the dispute, but analysts say tensions over fishing likely will continue as Britain seeks to fulfil its Brexit promise to take back control. Henry Richwell for VOA News, London.
The blessing of the bicycle at the Cathedral Church at St. John the Divine is a popular traditional in New York City.
Among many unusual New York rituals, this might stand out due to its longevity. For the past 23 years, in early May, hundreds of bikers cycled to the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine in New York City to have their bicycles blessed. Even pets come along.
She just loves to go in Central Park, and when I'm getting ready to get on my bike, she looks at me really anxiously, wondering if she's going to go too, and is very excited to get on the bike.
Glenn Goldstein started this unusual tradition. Not religious himself, Goldstein is an avid biker who got the idea from his mother.
Many years ago, my mother sent me a newspaper article about a blessing of the motorcycles at a shrine. And like all good sons, I took that article and threw it away. And many years later, I thought, this is not a bad idea. And so I came here to this wonderful cathedral and said, can I ask you a question? I was very embarrassed. I thought they would not like this, but they were very nice and welcoming. And we've been doing it for 23 years now. This is the 23rd year.
As for the purpose of the ceremony, Goldstein says he likes to think this blessing might keep him and many others a little safer.
But the church is beautiful and they're very nice to do this, and it's a nice thing to do. I think it's just a lovely ceremony.
Do I believe it helps? Amen. You gotta have faith. And you have all the help you can get, and you know, it doesn't hurt, that's for sure.
As the pandemic worsened, many New Yorkers saw bikes as one of the safest means of transportation in this hard-hit city. Even the church priests admit they haven't taken the subway in more than a year.
At a time during this past year when we were all huddled in our homes in abject fear, and I don't know how many of you are actually from the city, but we were all so afraid to go out. And these brave people, many of whom are immigrants to this country, many of whom are not documented immigrants to this country, they went out on their bicycles so we would have something to eat when we were all afraid, huddled in our homes. And so the people on the bicycles really in many ways made life possible for us during the pandemic.
Each year, roughly 2 bicyclists a day are killed in accidents on U.S. roadways. Bikes painted white often appear as memorials at the sites where bicyclists have been killed.
Pedro Lopez, 41, Brooklyn.
Thaddeus Chakowski, 61, Brooklyn. Zudi Dasi, 79, Staten Island.
I think the Ghost Bike, it's a good cautionary tale for all of us, seeing a bike there, and it's also a way to remember that a poor soul, you know, lost his or her life doing what they liked, or even just going about their daily business.
I think it's tragic and it's sad, but it's good to have a memorial for people to realize that it is dangerous with cars and bicycles, like sharing the same roads, and for people to be aware, like, how easy it is for cyclists to get injured when you have 1,000-pound vehicles riding next to them.
They come once a year to have their bikes blessed. Then they're off again, ready for another season of pedaling on city streets. For Anna Nelson in New York, Anna Rice, VOA News.
Colombian police use water cannons tear gas against protesters. Russia has denied involvement in the cyber attack that crippled Colonial Pipeline, a critical artery for almost half of the U.S. East Coast fuel supply. Pasti Bidakoswara for VOA News.
As officials sought to soothe concerns about fuel supply, some Americans are already paying more at the pump.
It's just one more thing that takes us into major stress.
Colonial Pipeline, which delivers almost half the petroleum fuel consumed on the U.S. East Coast, stopped operations last week due to a ransomware attack. These are cyber attacks where malicious actors seeking a financial payout hold hostage companies and governments' networks, paralyzing their service. The FBI says DarkSide, a criminal group based in Russia or Eastern Europe, is responsible.
We'll wait for our intelligence community to make a full assessment before we have more to convey about it.
Darkside said it only wants to make money and has no interest in geopolitics. On Tuesday, Russian government spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denied involvement.
We strongly object to any accusations against us in relation to this.
In April, the Biden administration slapped sanctions on Russia for involvement in the SolarWinds cyber attack targeting federal agencies. Cyber experts say an international accord, preferably one including Russia, is needed to halt ransomware attacks.
Unless we can find a way to stop the business model, to make it harder for these criminal groups based in Russia and surrounding regions to hack and get companies to pay to release their data, unless we can help companies to have data backups, unless we can help critical infrastructure operators understand what their risks are, then this problem will continue.
Colonial Pipeline said it's working to restore services. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has taken steps to address fuel shortages, including temporarily allowing lower quality gasoline blends to boost supply and enlisting rail operators to transport fuels to areas that need it most.
It's not that we have a gasoline shortage, it's that we have this supply crunch and that things will be back to normal soon.
If needed, the administration is also preparing to waive a federal rule that requires fuel shipped between U.S. ports to be transported on ships built over.
Satellites may help forecast volcanic activity.
Lava flows down a side of Guatemala's Pacaya volcano. Local relief groups say for now the lava doesn't appear headed for nearby communities, but that could change if it switches direction. University of Alaska researcher Tarsilo Garona is lead author on a report studying satellite data as a means of detecting future volcanic activity.
So the key point of this research is that we can, in principle, use these signs of heat, of the release of heat that we observe at the surface of volcanoes. We can use that information to better anticipate volcanic activity.
NASA scientists studied 16 years of radiant heat with instruments on board satellites. They found in the years leading up to an eruption, the radiant surface temperature over much of a volcano would increase by about 1 degree Celsius.
One of our main goals, main tasks, is to monitor volcanoes in real time. So incorporating this new methodology, that means that we are going to provide a lot of extra information that we can use to better understand the activity of active volcanoes and to better anticipate these eruptions.
Garona says by adding new tools for detection, researchers can predict months or even years before a volcano erupts.
So we basically combine all the different methodologies to better understand what's going on in the subsurface and also to provide forecasts of the activity. It's not always, it's not in general straightforward to make those forecasts, but yes, with new methodologies and incorporating new data sets, we are getting closer towards more robust forecasting of volcanic eruptions.
21 communities surround the erupting Pacaya volcano alone. Every Wednesday in April, devotees make a pilgrimage there to pray at the lava, sprinkling holy water and seeking divine intervention in stopping the flow. Garona says with more robust data gathering, science can warn communities like this one before the next major eruption ever happens. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
Well, viewers, that's all the news for today. And don't forget to keep following the COVID rules by how to protect yourself from the virus by wearing a mask, keep washing your hands, and keep social distancing. For more information, please call us on number below. I'm Dirce Lilifania and all crew of VOA and TV Education Timor. We would like to say thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and see you all next time.
Acompanhe mo sa reportagem internacional, desporto nacional no internacional. Televisão Educação Timor, sa inspiração ba futuro.
Playlist. Ami se apresenta vai tabot sira música videoclip o título Oin Oin. Espera se anima itabot sira e a tempo serviço no descansa. Playlist ia de canal TVE.
Turmai mak mensagem Husi embaixador australian Iha Timor-Leste Peter Roberts.
Olá maluk sira. How karak actualiza ba itabot kono ba vacina coronavirus. Hanesa nita barak ateneona. Vacina AstraZeneca produce em Melbourne, Australia. No se to e Timor-Leste e tempo badak. Vacina ne, hanesa mosho vacina AstraZeneca nebe, mak dadaun ne usa hodi vacina australiano sira e Australia.
Tamba saída mak Australia fornece vacina ba Timor-Leste?
Nuda belun no vizinho, ite teki serviço hamatuk. Cobertura vacina universal, mak sai hanesa dalan unico ida, hodi manam pandemia ne. E tempo, internacionalmente susa atu sosa vacina. Também exigência aslu produção. Nune governo Australia decide ona hodi tulun nia vizinho sira ho dalam fornece vacina nebe mak produce Australia. Ami serviço hamatuk ho Ministério Saudi hodi fornece lote distribuição regular ba vacina nebe mak produce Australia. Doze da huluk rihun sanulu se to e dili semana ida ne.
Vacina ne seguro kalae?
Vacina AstraZeneca, luona processo aprovação barak nebe mak rigoroso, no dadão ne nasam barak mak usa ona e mundo ne. Vacina AstraZeneca hetan aprovação husi Organização Mundial Saudi ba usa emergência. Siramos aprova ona hodi usa e Australia, no husi AMI Australia, ni regulador Administração Sasan Terapêutica, the TGA. No Conselho Ministro aprova ona hodi usa e Timor-Leste. Hanesan ho vacina hoto e a potência ba efeito colaterais. Ba informação na me los lu no atu compreende tambasaida mak vacina AstraZeneca nia benefício na be avalia ona bot lu duke nia risco. Bele bukati informação husi recursos sino na be mak disponível husi Organização Mundial Saudi no Ministério Saudi. O caso coronavírus na be aumenta ba bebek no lais tebesi Timor-Leste laran mundo global nia experiência hatudu ona katak ita iha situação perigo nia laran. Kritiku tebes katak ita protege ita nia an no emaseluk no husi hetam vacina. How akarak hetan vacina ne? How se hetam vacina? How nia cabe mo se hetam vacina ne?
Apoio saída tang mak Australia fornece?
Em total, Australia fornece ona osan milhão sanulu resimwalu pontu walu. Dolar americano hodi tulun Timor-Leste nia Akompanha ba vacina. Ida ne inclui osan hodi produce no distribui vacina seguro no efetivo ba ema hotu ia Timor-Leste to cobre percentu walu nulu husi preparação nebe magla cobre husi Covax. 12 rihun sanulu nebe se to semana ne honor parte ba contribuição ne. Amimos fornece assistência técnico no prático nian inclui ba gestão distribuição no gestão temperatura maliri nian logístico no educação saúde público. Apoio financeiro ida ne aumenta ba aminia parceria desenvolvimento regular o montante milhão hito nulu resin hito ponto lima dolar americano cada tinan.
Banhira makhabele hetam vacina.
Ministério Saudi subisa hamutuk ho Australia Organização Mundial Saudi no UNICEF ba assunto vacina nian. Baseia ba Timor-Leste nia plano de distribuição vacina nacional ema vulnerável no pessoal linha frente sira mactadão ne sai prioridade. Monitoriza na fatin atualidade husi Ministério Saudi kono ba banhira mak itabot sira elegível hodi hetan. How hetene katak? Tempo agora ne, tempo nebe susa ba Timor-Leste, ho situação inundação foin dadau ne no moso pandemia global. Australia agulu tebes halo parceria ho itabot sira. How fia katak? Relação ina ne metin nu uluk nian. No tambe ita hamatuk ita se hari filafali no recupera. Atualiza na fatin ho informação phone tu ami nia página Facebook Australia e Timor-Leste. Cuidado an na fatin maluk sira. Obrigado.